Hi, friends. My name is Emily. Welcome to Oh, I'm Lonely. It's my podcast about unpacking the big feelings that I have that usually whittle down to loneliness and disconnection from various aspects of my life, from career, communities, loved ones, and sometimes it's just about being plain old alone. Here we talk about all the different places loneliness creeps its sweet BB self into, and I try to understand what story that loneliness is trying to tell me. So please join me, because even though it's lonely here, you aren't alone.
Hi, friends. A quick little disclaimer before getting into the episode. Today we will be talking with Matty Limerick, as you will hear in just a moment. I just wanted to give a little disclaimer because in this episode we talk a lot about health issues again, a lot about weight loss, weight gain, and how the medical industry treats bigger people. And, we talk about EDs or eating disorders, body dysmorphia. And I just know that that can be something that's very triggering for people to hear if they don't have a little bit of a warning. So if that's too much, please take care. But I think Maddie's story is really important, and I know it will connect with a lot of people out there. So take care of yourself, but I hope you listen. Thanks.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. You're going to hear a familiar voice on the podcast today if you listen to my other podcast, Exit Stage Death, with my lovely friend and co-host of Exit Stage Death, Matty Limerick. Matty, hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Literally, Maddie and I just keep having Zoom sessions just to see each other, just so
It's
we
so
can
true. Listen.
just so we can hang out. Maddie, tell our audience who you are, what you do, just a little bit about yourself. Give them a little rundown.
I am Matty Limerick. Like most queer millennials with a microphone, I am a podcast host and producer.
Same, same.
I am the co-host of Exit Stage Death. I'm also the host and producer of Saturday Morning Confidential, where I go on a deep dive behind nostalgic properties that artists and creators of today have had inspire their work. And I also say that like I'm behind a group called Dreamer Productions, which just kind of is the overhead that produces all of the shows that I work on. So it's just that. But in my like career life, I am a freelance costume designer and wardrobe supervisor. I'm currently working for Norwegian Cruise Lines. And yeah, so I live in that like weird theater world. I'm a theater artist, kind of the eternal theater kid who's a super fan first, as well as the thing. So that's just me, I guess. That is me. Hello, everyone.
Maddie literally has the most, is the word encyclopedic knowledge of theater and just like the space that is around so many different aspects of the theater world that if I ever have a question, I'm like, I'm sure Maddie will know something about this. I'm just gonna ask them.
Which is so funny because like I've been listening to Theater a lot recently
Such a great
from
podcast.
J.
Friend
Bailey
of the
Bersham,
pod.
friend of the pod. Yeah, actually Bailey's episode I think is coming out next
Yes,
on
on
Exit Stage
Exit.
Death.
So tune in
Um
bi-weekly, everybody.
yes. By like most of the men I date. My friend Rachel made that earlier.
And like me.
She was like, your podcast is bi. And I was like, yeah, like my co-host and most of the people I date.
No
uh
truer statements could be said.
but it's so funny because I'm always like, yeah, I have a really good like theater knowledge. I have a master's degree in theater. So like, yeah, it's just a thing that like also like coming up in the time of the Broadway World blogs and message boards and just being
Hmm.
in New York during a certain time, like I just amassed a knowledge. Like I'm that's my brand of like neurodivergence and like uh autism and things of like that's where my
Yeah,
brain
that's
lives is like
your
learning, just
beautiful
like
focus.
learning the facts. Yeah, it's like I also because like I've got the Disney encyclopedia up there that I'm like back cataloging because I hate Disney right now. So yeah, it's just one of those. But I
Understandable.
love like listening. It's so funny you say that because I was like, yeah, I know a lot, and then I've listened listening to that and going, oh my god, there's just so much like different stuff that I have not soaked in. So it's I like to say that I'm the eternal student.
Yeah.
So I always like to learn and pick things up. But yeah, it's I do have that encyclopedia brain of weird useless facts that come in really handy at like Applebee's trivia. So like
Oh, hell yes.
dollar margs, half off boneless wings, and
I'm
trivia.
sorry.
with the
Where is there a
Joneses.
trivia where I can get a dollar marg? Because
It's okay.
I'm there.
The caveat is you have to be at an Applebee's. That's the problem.
I mean, I'll take a sampler tray. I'm not mad at it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The chilies or Applebee's sampler. Yeah, give me that spinach artichoke dip. Give me
But then
the.
I'm in the bathroom for like the
It's
rest of
true.
the night.
Yep. Yes. Yes. My friends joke and they always use the code because we're all fine, upstanding Southern women. They go, Dillard. I need to go to Dillard's, and so Dillard's is having a flash sale. Is our code that we need a bathroom stat,
Oh my
which is
god, that is so wonderful. And Dillard's is just like I feel like Dillard's is the epitome in terms of like retail stores. Like Dillard's is kind of the
uh-huh.
public bathroom of the retail stores.
It's true.
If
Though it's
Sears hadn't gone bankrupt, it
yeah,
probably would
well,
be
it's
Sears.
and it's also because like Dillard's is like fine, upstanding Southern people. It's the Southern Macy's before Macy's became nationwide. But like I was in the other day looking at stuff, and I was like, "This is Dillard's. Why are these polo shirts $170?"
I'm sorry,
Like,
get fucked, Dillard's.
get fucked. Oh yeah, they
I
do
think
have the cleanest bathrooms, though. I will say they have the actual cleanest bathrooms in the mall.
then I'm gonna have to get me to a Dillard's
It's
because
true.
going to the bathroom in a Boscov's, don't do it, friends.
No,
Don't
ma'am.
do it.
No.
I got like a gig dress, like my one like fancy dress for
Mm-hmm.
all my weddings that I have to sing. But I got this like sparkly dress, and
Mm-hmm.
Boscov's kind of only had like one section of like
Mm-hmm.
fancy things, and it was all like things that
Mm-hmm.
you'd see like a New Jersey or a Pennsylvania grandma wearing to
Uh-huh.
her like
Mm-hmm.
the
Grandmother
wedding of
bride. Mm-hmm.
uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like half shawls.
Mhm.
There was
Oh,
a
we
lot of
love it. We love a
uh
bolero out of the exact same fabric as the dress. Because
so
of
much.
course all the dresses are sleeveless because why?
I found the one okay, and I will say it's a cold shoulder. It is a cold shoulder
Well,
dress.
I do love a cold shoulder though. Like I do
It's
love a
like
cold shoulder.
let me just peek out
Just
a
a little
little bit of my
peek.
shoulder.
Uh-huh.
Just to make all the boys
Mm-hmm.
weak in the knees.
Uh-huh. Just enough
And
to make the dads go, ooh, but the moms are like, she still looks classy and like a good girl.
oh my god, it's I you know what though? I'll take it. My mom was like, "I have coupons." And I was like, "Bitch, let's do this."
Fuck with a coupon. That's why I shop at Penny's so much. They're one of the only places that I can shop as like a big and tall plus size person that
Mhm.
has like clothes.
Well, I hope we keep laughing throughout this whole episode because this is what I miss all the time.
Ugh.
Every time I'm by myself, I'm just making myself laugh. And I'm like,
Mhm.
is anybody out there? Can anyone hear
Mhm.
me? Like I'm full
Mhm.
on Titanic, calling out into the mist and hoping somebody is giggling. So that's why I love that you're here because we've got such good bets together. The podcast that we have here, we talk
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
loneliness in the various aspects that it
Mhm.
creeps up in our life. Some may call it depression, some may call it anxiety, or just all the things. And I think it can boil down to this feeling of loneliness, whether it's like you feel like you're alone in a crowded room, just like Rose DeWippercator when she's just like, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm in a big crowded room and nobody can hear me screaming or whatever the hell she says.
Mhm.
And so I'm so happy that you're here today to
Mm.
just kind of like talk to me. And I think by
Yeah.
extension, talking to me, you're talking to the world of like
Mhm.
other people being able to connect with like, yeah, I fucking felt that too. Thank you for seeing me, even though I'm
Mhm.
just in your ears. So what do you want to
Mhm.
talk about today?
So I have always been a very like strong friend person. Like I'm the friend that anybody can come to. My friend group always comes to me with issues. I'm always the friend that like has advice or is just like a good sounding board.
Mm,
But I'm the friend who I am so afraid of being the burden. So I felt kind of very lonely when it comes to like health and wellness.
mhm.
So I post a lot on social media. Anybody that's friends with me on social media knows that like if I'm bored or I'm at home for a day, I will either post a lot of like stream of consciousness or I will just share a ton of stuff. Over like the last year specifically, I stopped posting a lot of like personal stuff. And it was like last year I was in a really kind of violent living situation that I had to
Mhm.
be rescued out of, which is lovely. I was living with friends and I, we all gained weight with the pandemic. Like it was just something that happened.
Mhm.
But so for me, I've always been fat. take power in the word fat. I have a lot of people now that are like, "Oh no, you're not fat." You're they were like the thing is, I feel like especially all women out there will understand what I'm saying, which is when you say, "Oh my god, I'm fat," and they go, "No, but I think you're so handsome." And I was like, "Did I say I wasn't handsome? No, I
Yeah.
said I was
They
fat."
can both exist at the same
The
time,
two
honey.
exist, yeah, the two exist at the same time. But I've always been big. I've always been tall. I was always the tallest kid in my class. My family are larger people. Um, but this happens with women a lot and heavy people a lot,
Mm-hmm.
that you'll go in to talk to a doctor about something that is happening, and it immediately goes to, are you pregnant or are you fat?
Ugh,
Like,
yeah.
so I guess this journey kind of started in 2017. I was at graduate school. I'm somebody that, like, despite being heavy, I'm never sick. I get sick maybe once a year with a sinus infection. I know it's going to happen. I know I need amoxicillin, or yeah, I know I need the Z-Pack, or it will be an upper respiratory infection. I can treat it.
Yeah.
It's something that's very common with my body. And
You know
I
your
was,
body better than
yeah,
anybody else does.
I was in grad school. I was mentally not well, like just flat out. And anybody that's been at graduate school will understand,
Yeah.
especially when you realize that you're probably studying the wrong thing and you have a program full of people who are not supporting you.
Ugh.
Um, and so near the end of the first year, I was like not feeling good. And I got convinced by the medical group at my college that to do their weight loss program that they had that was free, was through student health. And I was like, great, that sounds fine. Until you get in and you realize that you have to use like a chicken noodle soup for the soul, like almost faith-based work. Like they want you to get
Oh
this
my
faith-based
God.
workbook, and they put me on some basic meds, just simple meds, like a blood sugar med, another
Okay.
med, and prescription grade speed. Yeah, it was an Adderall alternative. And as a matter of fact, they told me, they were like, take half a pill, a whole pill could make your heart explode. So just take half a pill. And that was the summer after you and I met. So it was the summer I
Oh
was
my
going back to
God.
Muhlenberg.
Okay.
And they gave me loose things to follow food wise. It was more like emotional mantras and things to like follow with the stupid workbook. And like you had to follow up with them, and you had to agree to do their like gym thing, but you had to agree to go at like 6 in the morning and do these classes. And I was just like, I can't commit to doing that during the summer. So they never checked in with me when they processed my blood work to continue if I wanted to do it. And of course, anybody that's been on a speed alternative, like literally like an Adderall alternative, they literally gave me that so I stopped feeling hungry, and then to
Oh
also
my
regulate blood
God.
sugar and stuff. So like I was trying to run a team with summer stock, which you know how Berg summer stock is. It's ridiculous. Anybody that's worked summer stock. So I stopped taking it because I felt like shit. And like, did I
Yeah.
immediately notice like a weight loss? Like, yeah. Like my face immediately looked thinner. And anybody who experiences this thing, they're like, oh, the moment your face starts looking thinner, you're like, I don't care what the rest of my body looks like as long as my face. So I didn't keep going. And then they got mad that I didn't keep going with it. And this is kind of prove something. So the beginning of my third year in grad school, I started noticing some really bad health stuff. Like the spring before, I started noticing some stuff. We went through the summer. I wasn't feeling good. I was getting like more lethargic and things.
Mm-hmm.
And then third year is crazy because you're doing your thesis program, you're writing your comps, you're writing your papers. Like that's all super stressful. And then so I started that fall, started having some like weird health issues where my throat was constantly on fire, and like I knew I had like sleep apnea and like acid reflux issues, like bad enough that I'm on
Yeah.
like 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day of acid reflux meds and things by like an ENT.
Same.
um,
I have so much acid
and
reflexes.
so I I'm going to like see an ENT. I'm asking for a sleep study. I'm doing all these things, and I'm getting told now. So keep in mind, I'm going to the University of Florida, which is one of the leading medical colleges in the world. We have students coming from China, coming from India, coming from all over the world
Oh
to
wow.
study
Never knew that.
medicine there. And so all the people, like we have a hospital chain there. Like I'm going through that as like part of this, and I keep getting told, well, you're so obese, that they were like, your just body is sick because you're fat. Your body's shutting down because you are fat. And I just
Jesus.
kept getting told that like if I lose weight, it would be fine. So like I literally like so keep in mind I'm waking up every 45 minutes to an hour. I'm lightheaded all the time. So I work in a
Yeah.
costume shop. Anybody who doesn't know, I did a lot of costume crafts. So like we're working on a show, I'm doing dye work to like match dance like dance garments to skin tones,
Yeah.
and I start passing out. And one day I passed out and my whole body went against the dye vat. I had
Oh my
burns all over
God.
my body, all these things. And like my feet were hurting so bad and I couldn't figure out what was happening. And I thought it was just like, oh, my mattress sucks. Cause I had one of those like 8-inch, 10-inch Amazon memory foam mattresses and things. And so
Yeah.
I went out and bought expensive orthotic shoes. I went out and bought a new mattress, which is like using student loan money to make sure that this happened. And
Mm.
so like I'm not feeling great. I know I've gained some weight than what happened in 2020, but COVID. So
Yeah.
I'm teaching at home, and like in 1 week I black out twice and wake up unconscious on the floor
Oh
covered
my.
in like a wet spot on the floor. So this is like 2 weeks before we're done with school. I'm trying to teach and do this stuff. So I'm like, I had kind of symptoms of COVID and I was like, maybe I just got COVID. Cause like I
Right.
lived in Florida and like I was still like wearing masks, but like going to Walmart and things to like get out and
Mm-hmm.
make sure I had supplies and things. And like everybody was wearing masks, but like also it's fucking Florida.
Yeah.
So I called student health. They quickly got me up there and set me outside to do a COVID test. And ended up with a wonderful nurse practitioner who was like, yeah, let's figure out what's going on. And I was describing everything that was wrong. And she was like, a lot of those aren't COVID symptoms and things. And so I was like, okay, but she's like, some of these are. This is the thing. Let's figure it out. Cause it was also like, I was running like 102 fever, all these things. And like during COVID, none of us were eating well. We were literally just trying to eat what we could to get by.
I was literally that meme of Kermit with wine that's like
Yeah.
dancing
Oh,
erotically.
yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
was me.
Well, we all thought that it was going to be 2 weeks and then maybe a couple months. Like that was going to be the thing.
Or the end of
Um,
the fucking world, and we were all like,
we
who
were like, fuck
cares?
it. We're dead. Yeah, we're dead. We're dying. And I was also like, okay, great. Well, I have this job and these two pre-Broadway, like I was literally supposed to work 2 pre-Broadway runs of new musicals, all these things, those were already getting canceled.
Ugh.
And so she called me and she was like, well, you don't have COVID, but I'm really fucking concerned if you don't have COVID, what's happening to your body. So they like moved heaven and earth and brought me up and did a shit ton of blood work on a loading dock with me outside, everybody in masks. They were in literal like hazmat suits. And so
Jeez.
she's going through my, I promise everyone at home, this story has a purpose.
But also,
Um,
like, can we say, like, give cred to that nurse practitioner?
Oh,
Because,
oh,
like,
she
above and
literally like
beyond,
I'm about to
we
get to
love
something where
nurses.
like I think I ruined her career because of this. Like,
Oh, no.
yeah,
I'm sure you
like,
didn't.
well, I go back and look through your file because she was like, you haven't really needed to come here. I was like, yeah, but could you look at like last year? I was coming a lot and they were told me I was fat and that's why I was getting sick. And she just looked at me. She's like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, yeah, they told me because I was fat. And she was like, well, you are obese, but like obesity, like some obese people can be the healthiest people in the world. And I was like, right. And so she was like,
Yeah.
okay, let's figure this out. And that alone, like the fact that I can pinpoint twice since I stopped seeing my pediatrician when I was 18, like if I can think of twice in almost 20 years that I've
Mm-hmm.
had doctors that didn't just go, well, you're fat. Okay, 3 times. I had a great ENT in New York City, but it's because she specialized in like opera ENT health. So like opera singers are typically heavier people. So she
True.
looks at my record and looks at my blood work and goes, you know, you're diabetic, right? And I was like, excuse me. She was like, did they not call and tell you? It was in your record from 2 years ago that you're a type 2 diabetic and you should have been on medication this whole time.
So those times you passed out, you were probably going into
Yeah,
like
I was
like
literally
low
my
blood sugar or something
I
like
didn't
that.
I didn't know to regulate my blood sugar because they did have me on metformin, which is a blood sugar med, but they said it was to curb appetite and to help with weight loss. Um
Oh my
and
God.
so
They could
that's
be their
in
asses could be so sued.
well, let's get to that.
Oh, come on,
Um
honey.
so I again, a lot of this is going to be off the record, unofficial, because I can't prove that this is what happened. Um,
Allegedly, allegedly,
allegedly,
allegedly.
allegedly, allegedly.
But also, this is your
So
perspective, so say your truth,
right.
babe.
Well, and so like literally, can I keep in mind, I'm literally moving away from Gainesville 7 days after she calls me with this information,
Oh my
7 days before I lost health insurance because my health insurance was tied to grad school. Also keep in mind, graduate schools that pay you to be there know that you cannot claim unemployment at the end because it's the end of a contract. And because this was COVID and it was the end of my contract, I got fucked and could not claim unemployment the whole time
God.
because I knew from the beginning that my contract was ending and it does not make us eligible for unemployment in Florida, which by the way, max unemployment that you could collect was $250 a week.
That's
Max.
probably why for cruise ships they never allowed you to collect
Yes.
unemployment
Yep. Because
because
you always knew when the end of your
Carnival's
contract
based out of
was. Yep.
Florida.
hmm And so,
Bastards.
well, it's so that you don't collect it and then you go on unemployment for 4 months into your next contract because your
Mm.
company technically has to pay the unemployment. Like in New York, your company pays unemployment and your
Yeah, well,
company
that's
gets room out of
what
it.
should
Yeah.
happen. Like, if you
Exactly.
don't guarantee a contract for someone, like
Exactly.
within like a 6 week or a month period, and
Yeah.
they are, I mean, I know this is off track, a tangent of sorts, but like Gabe and I would be waiting for 6 months for a contract, and we weren't
hmm
able to make the amount of money we were making on cruise
Yep.
ships.
Yep.
Fucking
hmm
wild.
Yep. And so she's like, let's figure this out, get you home. She put me on some meds. And like many people, because it was the end of my lease and stuff, I literally went home and lived with my parents for 2 months
Yeah.
before I was working. I had gotten like my steps into my dream job with my dream company, a certain magical company in Orlando. So like I go home and I'm like, my dad's a diabetic. So it was like really good to go home and like help him. But like the problem was, I didn't have health insurance anymore, and I had a
Hmm.
finite amount of medication with one refill. And this is before they really like regulated diabetes medicines through a lot of things. So,
Hmm.
um, like I could get the refills and stuff. So I did, and we were going, and then I moved back to Orlando and did not have to work at a job that we then started, and they fired us immediately. Take that for what you will.
Hmm.
And then I worked for a medical company that did not give us health insurance because we were gig workers with the hospital chain and they refused to give us health insurance.
For
And
fuck's
and
sake.
they're a religious based hospital chain. I looked at one of my
So
bosses one day and
pro-life
I
of
was like, that's
them.
not what Jesus would have wanted, but okay. Um
So pro-L of them.
and so what was nice is that nurse practitioner was still calling me and she was like, I'll call in as many refills as you need.
Oh.
And then
Yeah, that was probably against the things that she was
well
allowed to do, but we love her.
well because I technically wasn't a student anymore and it was
Hmm.
student health, but a lawyer found out what had happened to me and wanted me to press charges against the school, and when we started to file that, she got moved to the COVID wing of the hospital from student health. I can't prove that that's why, also because like
Yeah.
the hospital was full. They were one of the largest hospitals in the area, again,
Yeah.
allegedly. So I'm living on my own, barely making ends meet. And so I don't have access to my medications anymore because I have no doctor. Because after every 3 to 6 months, they have to check your A1C. And
Hmm.
so, of course, because she wasn't there, there was no doctor to approve it. So I no longer had access to medications. So I knew that I had like diabetic tendencies, but we'd gotten it down to like below pre-diabetic and it was like, oh, it's fine. The only people that knew that had happened was my family and like my three friends at grad school. So I was like very quiet about it. But I also didn't super alter my diet too much, except for like doing sugar-free things instead of the other. Um, and then so I got to Orlando and like during COVID, like a lot of people, my best friend died and
Mm.
I was working in theme parks. I got assaulted by theme park guests at Disney, working there. And like a lot of bad things happened. I was in a really dangerous situation at home. And so like I moved 4 times in my first year
Oh my
in
God.
the in a year and a half in Orlando. Like working at theme parks, like 4 or 5 in the morning, we're there till midnight, whatever. Um for $12 an hour. So I was doing what a lot of us do, which is we cope with depression and mental illness in certain ways, and mine is food. Mine has always
Hmm.
been food.
Hmm.
And I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, but I did notice that I'd been like gaining a little more weight. But like when you're already a 4x and already like a women's 28-30,
Hmm.
you don't really notice until then suddenly that like you can't button your 4x's.
Yeah. Yeah.
And So I get a cruise ship job, which I was super excited for. And it was, back in my field, making a great amount of money. I'd been at Universal, which I loved. But getting to come back to my industry, making double what I was making in the theme park, you have to go through a medical screening and thing. And so
And for those who don't know, the medical screening for cruise ship, no matter what, I'm pretty sure everybody, and I mean, from
it's truly inhumane. Like
it's
truly inhumane.
it's
Hmm.
insanity. Like I
Hmm.
remember, number one, very difficult to find a place accessible to you
Yep.
to get the medical work. Once you
Hmm.
get on the ship, if you get on the ship with medical stuff, you have to fight tooth and nail to have them like reimburse you because it's
Hmm.
usually at least half a paycheck.
Um, so we had to go through this company. I'm not going to call them out because it is currently my job, and I do not want to get fired because I like my job. But it is the company that handles all of our medical stuff as a third party.
If you work cruise ships, you probably know who it is.
Schmanish and smelly. So I knew my weight was going to be an issue, so I was prepared to have to get like a second opinion from a doctor and do the stress test. I know a
Hmm.
lot of people that have had to do it, even people that I don't consider to be overweight, but like whatever, it is like a safety thing, I guess. If you have to rescue, if it's a full on Titanic and you have to like sing Celine while the boat's going down while you're saving everybody.
Girl, you can say that. I'm leaving them in the dust. Gabe and I were always like,
I literally have
bye.
joked that, like
Not all of us can be like that baker that was on the Titanic that like literally
yeah.
survived
Oh, literally, you listen to My Favorite Murder? Yes.
and got through like. And by the way, I know exactly what character it is in the movie because I've seen that
Uh-huh.
movie so many times.
Oh
Because
yeah.
hello, bisexual awakening. Hello.
Also,
Oh,
I love that he was a little drunk the whole time, and that's probably why he survived. I love that.
truly.
Get a call, and I got the news that I was expecting, but not the news I was expecting. So,
Yeah.
and this is something that like most people still don't know if you know me. So, I was told that yes, she was like, "Did you know you're morbidly obese?" And I was like, "Yes, I have a mirror. Thank you." Um, my BMI was higher than I was expecting, even though we know BMI is bullshit. The cruise lines
Yeah.
still care about BMI.
But cruise
She
ships
was
are
like,
very strict about it.
she was like, your A1C is really high, which I wasn't surprised, which is like your blood glucose level over a 90-day period is what an A1C
Okay.
is.
I was gonna ask.
Like non-diabetic is like typically 5 and less. Pre-diabetic is like 5 to 6, and then 6 and above is diabetic.
Okay.
Um, Mine was incredibly high. We're not going to talk about the numbers. But then she goes, "You're actually really close to liver and kidney failure. Did you know that?"
Oh my god.
And I said, and she literally went, "I'm shocked you haven't had a major mortality event in your lifetime looking at your numbers." And I
Give me
was
her
like,
number and I'll make her feel that for
and
herself as well.
so I had
Get fucked,
literally
Karen.
I just left my job at Universal because we're talking like days before I'm
Yeah.
supposed to show up for contract. Like
Yep.
days. Like this is Monday and I'm supposed to show up on Saturday for my contract. Um, and so she's like, "We can't approve you. It's going to be a minimum of 6 months before we can sign you off." And she was like, "You need to go see a doctor immediately to make sure that you're not dying." And I'm literally sitting in a Publix parking lot crying because I just lost my health insurance because I left my job at Universal that had health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things. I was like, "What do you expect me to do?" She was like, "You either do this or you don't. It's not my problem." And so I clammed up immediately and didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I just called the doctor at Team Care and was like, "Well, I technically still have a couple days left of insurance because you pay like a week out." And I immediately called my bosses and was like, "Can I please have my job back?" So there's a lot of shame surrounded with like health issues,
Mm-hmm.
um, and like fatness. And so this was one of those situations where my fatness isn't why I was sick, but like my abuse of my body with my weight was why I was like in the place that I was. And so I had a lot of shame around it. So like I told my parents, because my mom had been diagnosed diabetic in like September and was doing the same thing, going through a lot of changes. Um, but like I wasn't even 37 yet. Like I just turned 37 in August. And that idea that like I'm sitting in my car going, "Oh my God, your grandfather had his first heart attack at 40, but you're going to beat those odds and die before you're 40. Oh my God." And so I immediately went in to see the doctor, immediately went home and threw out all the food that I had, and I went grocery shopping. And I was really like full of so much shame because of it. So that like my housemates that I lived with knew because they knew immediately that something was wrong. My two best friends knew, and then my family knew, and then nobody else knew. I didn't talk about it on social media, and I hadn't made the announcement that I was working for the cruise line yet. Thank God.
Yeah.
Um, and I like very quickly and quietly went back to Universal, even though everybody was like, "I thought you were going on the cruise line," and I was just like, some medical stuff had to come up that I had to like get screened for, and I had to like tell my managers that like, so I'm about to start undergoing some like crazy treatment and medicines and things, and so like if I tell you that I'm like sick or need to leave or like I'm about to pass out, this is what's going on.
Yeah. I'm not
And
just
so
like not wanting to
yeah,
be here.
yeah. And like I hadn't called out at all yet. Like it was a thing. Like I had perfect attendance before I was leaving. They like cried that I was leaving, which always like toss feel great. I'm a monster, but I convince bosses that I'm a team player because it's always like, of course I'll do it. I'll do anything that's good for the team. I'm a team player because I want a promotion. I like quietly had to start. I was like quietly living with what was happening.
Mm.
And I went to the doctor's. So that was a Monday. I was in the doctor's office at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. And he had the full packet of paper from them and looked at everything. And he was like, I don't know how to put this other than he was like, you're not going to make it to 40 if we don't make some changes now.
Mm.
And it was so shocking because I've always been like, oh, I'm dieting, oh, I'm doing this, oh, I'm trying these things. And
Yeah.
I've never been able to like do, like commit to anything.
Mm-hmm.
But suddenly when this happened, I was suddenly able to like walk, jog 2 miles every day and completely overhaul my diet and just like cold turkey stop eating sugars and sodas and junk foods and like started cooking every meal and like seeing a nutritionist and doing these diabetes courses and but like quietly suffering and then like not
Mm.
suffering but like quietly doing this journey. And
Yeah.
even my like housemates that I live with didn't fully understand what was happening. They're like, "Oh my god, your diet," and I was like, "No, no, no, this is like a full thing." And I was on like a blood pressure med, a cholesterol med, an anxiety like a thing, and then like
This is a
blood sugar
180
meds.
lifestyle turnaround.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. And so like I was trying to look at it as a lifestyle thing, and so it was really alienating to also have to because like literally that was like the 1 year anniversary of my best friend dying
mm,
was the day that I found out this was happening. And I don't know if a lot of other millennials are like me, but I realized I don't know how to grieve. It's just like
mm,
something I learned with all of this. Um, when I'm suddenly having to like, I'm a Leo Virgo rising with a Libra moon, so I'm very much a self pity party. I love to wallow and feel bad for myself. Um, but it was suddenly like not talking about it on social media, none of like even my friends. I told like two of my other friends when they started noticing a big shift change or like and like them having conversations with me being like, but you've never eaten that much around us, like I wouldn't even consider that. And it was like, and those were the times where I had to start realizing that like I was so alone in my struggle for mental health and making sure everyone else around me's needs were being met, but then not wanting to ever, like I will never be that friend that goes, can I talk to you about something, because
mm,
I never want to be a burden or bother someone from being so bullied for so long by kids when I was younger. It's a lot of things that like
yeah.
trauma compounds that you don't realize that you have these habits. Because I
Hmm.
make sure everybody else goes to a therapist, but heaven forbid that I see a therapist. Like,
Oh, that's how it always goes. It's
um,
like,
you know,
because
I'm
it's so easy, not that it's easy to take care of other people, but it's easier to take care
yeah,
of people than to take care of ourselves.
but it's also when you don't have health insurance and you live in a state like Florida where like
Yup.
you have to make less than $15,000 a year to qualify for Medicaid. Like
Yep.
all of these things where like there is no mental health stuff, they're
Hmm.
available. All of these things that I just had to, and I was like, I'm fine, I'm treating it. And I had to be like, yeah, it's because I eat like a single small portion at your house, and you didn't see that I literally housed 5 items from Taco Bell and an extra large soda before I pulled into your house. Like,
Mm.
or I will go and buy 5 treats from 5 different fast food restaurants, and then I'll put them together and like eat them as dessert when I get home, or I will go buy sad people food, or and like nobody rides in my car with me, so nobody could see the like fast food bags piled in the front seat. It was one of those things where I had to come have a realization for myself that i I was treating things in a very unhealthy way, and so a lot
Yeah.
of this was my fault. But it's also because like this is what happens when we don't have health insurance. And so like because I got promoted to full-time after being hired part-time at Universal, so there was a weird like lapse in insurance, and so my insurance didn't even really start until January. And you work so much that I always made an excuse for not going, because it was like, oh, I need to get back on diabetes meds at some point. Like it was always something that I thought that I needed to do. um and so it was but it was something I didn't talk about at work. But it was also like suffering from chronic pain a lot, and then having to learn how to be like, I'm suffering from a lot of pain today, I'm here, but I can't be in a position where I can stand for 13 hours today. And like, but like quietly making sure that I didn't make a scene about it.
Mm.
Because my goal was to like get healthy enough to get signed off, even though I knew it wasn't going to happen till like September. But I had to check like a check. You do like a 30-day check-in, and then a 90-day check-in, then a 160-day check-in, whatever that is. 170-day check-in, 180-day. Um, and so it was going through that. Like I had my family to check in with, and like my two friends, but like I felt so lonely and alone figuring it out, especially when people are like, wait, I thought you left for that dream like cruise ship job. And I was like, yeah, we're getting there, it's just gonna be a little longer. um and then like quietly opening up to people about stuff. But then like when people also started noticing like rapid weight loss, because it's something that, did you know that if you're taking care of your body and properly giving yourself nutrition and exercise, that you are healthier and have time and energy during your day? I thought people were crazy for years. Like literally a week in after like my body detox, because let me tell you, I was
That
I
sugar
was,
detox is real
oh,
as fuck.
forgive my language, but I was a monstrous cunt for 4 days.
Oh, I'd be too.
Like I felt the need to like have the texture of cake in my mouth. Like
Yeah.
it was so bad. My poor mother, I just was like, and like I wasn't supposed to eat anything with like salt in it, low cholesterol, really low carb. And
Wow.
so like things like completely overhauling my diet. And
Yeah.
I didn't eat out for 3 months. I didn't, all of these things, no sodas, even diets, like overhauling. And then like I started going to a gym. Like 60 days in, I was like, okay, we're at a point where I want to start taking classes and stuff. But it was still like, I was really quietly going through these things and like trying not to be public about them. And I was like, oh my God, none of my clothes are fitting now. All these things are happening. And then like weird things started happening to my body. Like I got a bacterial infection during this time. And then they thought that like, they were like, oh, your liver and kidneys are fine. So like we got to the 3 months and it was exceptional. Like my weight had come down
Mm.
80 pounds,
That's so great.
and my A1C was almost to where we needed it to be, and my cholesterol was great. My liver and kidney function had turned around so quickly that then my body went, sorry, your liver's going to shut down. So we contended with that, but then I got what I didn't
Human
know was going
body
to
is
happen.
wild.
And yeah, oh, it's so wild. But I got what I wasn't expecting in 3 months, which was the sign off to go to work for Norwegian
Wow.
after 3 months
Yeah.
instead of 6. But it was still a lot of things that even until recently, I've posted a little cryptically like, oh, I had a health diagnosis, I had a thing happen. It's just been so funny for me because I've been so lonely with it and so like alone. Even though I've had a little bit of support, because it's really my journey. And one of those things that I was like, we joke as millennials that like I would rather die than such and such happening, but it's still just like, oh my God, it's so weird what I'm mentally capable of when I'm staring literal. And he also said it's not going to be a quick death, it's going to be painful and long, and your body's going to start shutting down before your heart and brain shut down.
Oh
And
my
he's like, it's
God.
going to be a long thing. And
Wow.
so it, but what's really funny is I didn't want to scare anybody or have anybody worry about me or be a burden. And so I didn't really share it. I still haven't really shared with most people. People have noticed that I look physically different. I thought I was having a heart attack like a month ago because my body's been through so much
It's
shock.
been so
But
through
like, yeah,
so much. Yeah.
nobody knows that I was in the ER overnight a month ago, like 2 months ago almost. And like, I didn't even tell. Can I tell you? I didn't even tell my mom till 2 weeks later because I didn't want her to worry. No one knew that I was in the hospital overnight except for one of my bosses. Because he's the one that like did the paperwork to send me. There's just so much shame with like being a fat person that is
Yeah.
sick or like ill. And
Yeah,
because
because
there's
God
just so
forbid
much,
you're a human being that your body does something that you can't control. It doesn't
right.
matter the size that you are. It's just like, but society will
Hmm.
look at a thin white woman with more
Hmm.
concern
Yeah.
than anybody else. Like, it's like,
Well, and
or
even
not even a
going,
woman, probably more of a cis,
yeah,
a white
oh,
cis
yeah,
man. Like,
yeah. It's well, and even going into the hospital when they thought that I could be having it, even though they were like, your EKG is great, but you're so young. And I had to explain to them kind of what I just went through because they were in the same health network as
mhm.
my doctor in Orlando. So they had my records and I had to explain it to them. And it went because I could see them coming in and going, oh, your weight. And then they looked at everything and went, oh, and they were like, oh, maybe your body is catching up with itself and going through a little bit of shock. And they were like, so you're so young, you could actually be having a heart attack and we not know and it not come up on the EKG. So we have to send you to the hospital. And then I literally was in the hospital for almost 29 hours alone
Oh,
with no
oh,
one to contact, except for like my boss who had to do the similar thing when he started. But it was one of those things that came full circle with me of feeling so alone. But
yeah.
I didn't want to scare anyone. I didn't want anyone to worry about me. Um, to the point that I was like, something awful could happen in here and no one would
And no one
know
would
because
know.
I am feeling so much shame about this. And so it's been a lot to like go through this. And it's like occasionally I'll post on Facebook, be like, hey, remember folks, take care of your body while it's still healthy, while you still have it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not a thing. I'm never going to shame anybody. Like I support my friends doing the never ending possible right now at Olive Garden. I will always support my friends to do whatever, but like, it's just one of those things. Like our bodies are not eternal. Like you're not
Hmm.
immortal. And it's just one of those things that like I still am having to like come to terms with like telling people. And like it was so funny at work, like at Universal, I worked with a lot of really sweet like middle-aged like Puerto Rican and Mexican women who are just like so incredibly uplifting. And one of them pulled me aside and she's like, baby, are you sick? And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, your face, she was like, your clothes fit you like a sack right now. She was like, do you have cancer? Are you sick? What's happening? Can I help you? Like, and I was like,
Oh,
no. And I was just like, oh my God, it's a thing. She's like, I'm starting to notice that
abuelita.
I know. I was just like, Tia, oh no, Tia Mary, no. And so it was just like, I had to explain to her, I was like, no, it's actually like a good thing that's happening right now. But like, thank you for noticing. Cause it's also one of those things like,
You're working really
I'm
hard to like find a healthy space for you,
well,
and
but I don't want, it's one of those things that also I'm just like, we should never comment on other people's weight, even if you're trying to compliment them on losing weight or
yes,
being like,
yes.
oh, you've like curved out and you look amazing because somebody could feel terrible about it.
Hmm.
Um, and it was also, but like, I realized that in that time, like I didn't weigh myself the first 30 days because the whole point of this has not been to lose weight. It's been to get my
Yeah.
body in a healthy place. Weight loss, of course, is a side effect from it. But then I started weighing myself after my first check in at home once a week, which then became every day, which then became fixating on what I was eating and what was
Hmm.
changing and why that number wasn't going down, and realizing that I very quickly developed an eating disorder. Like, because before I'd be sad and I'd go to Wawa or I
Yeah.
would like stop at McDonald's. So instead, I was then having a really bad shift at work and then driving to the gym and having a second 2.5 hour workout of the day.
Mm,
And like, that's better for you. But also at the same time, that means I've spent 5 hours at the gym in one day.
mm. And so your
Like,
body's exhausted.
it's exhausted. And so it was one of those of like, oh, because I'm not seeing a therapist, because I'm not like in a group, I'm having to traverse
Mm,
my coping mechanisms in one or another. So like, long story long about everything, it's just been really hard and lonely. What's funny is because like in gay dating specifically, there are apps that are specifically for larger people, and the people who like larger people. So to them, they notice the chasers. They notice a weight loss, and they treat you really poorly for it. And then like other gay people still see you as fat and gross, and so there's like this weird caveat where it's just like, oh, well, I went from 425 pounds to 320 pounds, so like I'm still fat according to the world, but for
Yeah.
me, I've lost a twink. Like I've literally lost an 18-year-old thin white gay from me. I lost a chorus line cast member, like.
One singular sensation.
Just imagine the fat just like adipposing off in the. So it's just been a lot to like struggle, and then like getting here, I'm realizing everyone has met me for the first time, so I'm still this like funny sassy fat person, but like no one knows the literal struggle and blood, sweat, and tears I had to put in just for this
Mm.
fucking job. And the job wasn't why, but I was like, I need a career move, and so this was
Yeah.
a great career move for me. And so it's been weird to struggle, and like I'm slowly opening up with people a little bit, and like I've done a little bit of posting on social media, but again, it's also like my life and my thing, and I don't want people to worry. um but yeah, it's just been really weird to go through this alone of my own volition, but then also realize that like I've kept people at an arm's length for so long, like even my best friends, so that like they'll chat about like what's going on, but then like I guess I've trained the people around me not to ask too many personal questions, and that I will share
Mm.
enough, and I will share personal information when I want to share. Um, and you know, I'm a Leo, so I'm very good at being on. You know, it's very
Yeah.
easy to interact with like Disney gays, because that's what
Yeah.
Orlando is full of, and like theme park kids. It's really easy to just like talk about Halloween Horror Nights and like be cha 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 cha. Yes, yes, hunty boots,
Yes,
house down. Yes,
queen.
oh, yeah. Like it's
Purse
very easy to
first.
like,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
like it's very easy to do that and put that on to like cloak everything else. And so
Oh, it's a beautiful mask.
oh, I mean, if we're talking about like autism and ADHD and mental illness and like masking, and like at
Mm-hmm.
37 realizing like what I've been doing to mask for my entire life, and that a lot of that has been, you know, I was suddenly finding myself flashing back to eighth grade when, or seventh grade in Sunday school, when we would have like the all boys Sunday retreats or whatever, and we would like we'd be doing like athletic things, but then there would also be like the fun award for like the most pizza eaten, and I would be that kid that would like aim for that most pizza eaten, and like being the weird kid and being funny, and then like
Yeah.
being the funny fat gay kid or the funny fat drag queen, because like the hot skinnier people want you around because they know you're a drag queen, and you're like, yes, yes, and I'll, you know, read somebody the boots house down, as the
Yeah.
kids would say, like, but it's all
And there's
maskings
these are
to.
those like very safe
Yep.
boxes that you're like, at
Mm-hmm.
least I have control within
Mm-hmm.
these boxes and nobody can
Mm-hmm.
penetrate it and they can't
Yeah.
hurt me because
Yeah.
I'm allowing these things to be said about me, and these are the rules, these are the
Yeah.
guidelines.
So I think a lot of it comes down to, I think like, as I don't want to say speak for plus size people or big people, but it's like, of course we're gonna like suffer alone and figure things out, because you know your skinny friends are judging you. The people around you are judging you between clothes, and like when you, like what a lot of people don't realize is like big people are aware of the looks we get at restaurants based on what we order.
Hmm.
Um, Based on the looks we get at clothing places. If we go into like a non plus size clothing store, I've gone into a big and tall clothing store, asked if they have a more tapered, tailored leg of a pant, and said, "Why would you want that? You're fat," from the staff of the store. Um, and like,
Ugh,
so we like
I
learn to be
fucking
really
hate it.
quiet. We learn to be quiet together, and I think that's why like the gay bear community is like very close knit, because we don't necessarily romantically necessarily like other big people. I like a thickums. I like anybody of any body type, because all bodies are beautiful, and if you're limiting to yourself to love and preference based on body, you deserve to be alone. So get
Say it. Say
Get
it
mad.
out.
Get fucking mad. Okay, this is my funny thing. I'm just gonna say it's gonna be a little vulgar. When
Give it to
everybody when
me.
everybody in Grinder complains that there's no tops, I'm like, no, you just don't want to fuck a fat person. Literally, it
Say
fucking comes
it.
down to it. It's not down to preference, because all bodies are beautiful. Like
Yeah.
I used to only like hairless thin people. And like was repulsed by the things that I now think are the most sexy and attractive about
Mm.
people. Also, heaven forbid that I find somebody's personality more attractive than their body, but then like learn to love like all aspects of
Yeah.
them because I love their personality. Like,
Get it.
I don't know. I'm not saying I'm better than everybody else, but like,
I think you're
um,
pretty great.
it's just kind of wrapping up that I was just like, it's funny that it was really easy at first for me to kind of suffer alone
Hmm.
because, you know, I say suffer, but like exist alone and kind of I was constantly afraid and in fear and like terrified of being like, I could do all this work and it still not save me. And then suddenly being like, but what does dying before 40 actually mean? Like, what
Mm.
am all these things? And so, like, I guess traversing that, it's just like what we do the rest of the day when we're like quietly really sad in our car because, like, we're not getting a date and like you're emotionally like I'm not emotionally at a point where I think I'm ever going to be able to date again, but like I'm a monster. So like in a relationship, like that's not where I am, but like I just see you know, I know that look from other like bigger people or bigger queer people. Like I know what that look is. I know that glint in the eye or the deadness in the eye.
Mm.
That like even if you got a good group of friends or whatever, and even if they're all bigger people like yourself, there's still that sense of competition a little bit, but there's also life fucking sucks because we're told that like you're better if you're thinner. And even in
Mm-hmm.
a body positive movement, especially for like I'm non-binary, I identify as queer, like gay adjacent, um and like even in that, like if you're not androgynous or you're not Lizzo or like
Mm-hmm.
NICU tutorials. Like it's one of those things that it's still just like, where is that place for me? And so a lot of that, I guess, it came very naturally to just like quietly suffer. Um, but like that's why I think I found most of my loneliness in that and realized that it did kind of help me start picking apart the like systematic issues culturally of
Mm-hmm.
why I let myself get to this point. And again, it's all my own fault. I had every decision to not be reckless with my body, and I didn't think I was, but I was like, also eating McDonald's breakfast every day is gonna fucking kill you. Sorry
Mm-hmm.
everyone, it's delicious, I love it, but like I did that for 2 years and I gained like 60 pounds in 2 years. And that's again,
Mm.
your weight has nothing to do with this, but your health and your weight sometimes are connected. So for
Yeah.
me, they are just connecting currently. So I'm not shaming anybody for being big. I think all big people are beautiful and have more power and sexiness than anybody else. Because also what's been funny is with this, I've been I didn't really have body dysmorphia before. Suddenly when like your body starts to sag and you're losing, but then you're suddenly your body looks different because you've still
Mm-hmm.
got the remnants of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um like having to wake up and be happy that I'm smaller and healthier, but then also realize that like I still have the vestiges of being 425 pounds
Mm-hmm.
and having that skin forever because I, you know, I'm covered in stretch marks. And something about stretch marks is your body is at its most elastic, the elasticity that it will reach until the skin physically keeps going. And so where you have those stretch marks, it's not necessarily going to shrink back. Your body,
Yeah.
your skin does wonderful things, but and so looking and like now learning to love my body as I continue to get smaller, not intentionally, but just as I'm still making healthy choices for myself, as I get to a point where I want to like plateau and keep my weight where I am for health reasons, of like learning to work through the dysmorphia and learning to
Mm-hmm.
give myself. I've never had to treat myself with grace and forgiveness and sincerity, and so learning that now has been so weird and so alienating and just like panic anxiety inducing, but
Yeah.
it's it's getting to me to a point where I can learn to love my body. But it's really funny that like trying to like date or even just like have like sexual partners and be like, I hate what I necessarily look like now. It's just one of those weird things that it's like I know I'm in a better place, but then it's also like contesting with those things, which is all societal and bullshit. So it's
Yeah.
that's where I think a lot of my loneliness has been coming from, which I think a lot of other people
So many, like,
deal with. Because like
so many people.
how many people out there that are listening like have chosen not to go to a doctor because you probably should, but like you don't want to be told that you're fat or being asked if you're pregnant or
Mm-hmm.
like being told that your body is just not right and that's why you're sick or whatever. How many people are afraid to go to doctors because aren't treated with grace and sincerity the way that all
And
people should be,
humanity.
and humanity. There is such a lack of humanity in medical, especially today with how much we fucking paid to do it. Like if I wanted to
First,
get
do no harm. Get fucked.
if I wanted to be emotionally abused, I'm gonna go home at Christmas and get on Grinder. Like, come on, if I want emotionally abused, like,
And then I'm
come
gonna go
on.
home and watch a fucking Hallmark movie.
And I'm gonna go stay with my mother, which is I love her, but is emotionally jarring. In my Southern evangelical home,
My
I love
tank
her.
is empty,
My
honey.
tank runneth empty. She runneth nothing.
She on E. She below
She
E.
on E. So I feel like that's one of those things that I should talk about more. I should probably be in a group therapy session, but it's just that's where I found loneliness a lot recently. And because I don't want to burden anybody, but I also don't want people to be surprised if one day I'm like suddenly posting a picture because I'm hooked up to IVs and oxygen and everything in a hospital. Like it's just
Also,
those
Maddie,
weird
like
things.
you, I am not a therapist, and I'm sure if my therapist ever listened to any of these episodes, she'd be like, "Who do you fucking think you are? You wrecked human being. Shut up." But I think I hope that you're able to find a place where you are have every right to take up space in so many different aspects, not only physically because you are a beautiful human being that everybody should be fucking graced with your presence at some point in their life, but also just like emotionally, like I feel so honored that you're taking up space here right now because like I want to give you that space. I want to hear your story. I want to hear and what you're willing to share. And I think that should always be in your corner of like, all right, well what how much of the valve do I want to open today to like let it flow, because it can't always be a dam because
Yeah.
goddamn, like we'll be
Oh
fucking
yeah.
exhausted.
No. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but like I just hope that on this journey that with the grace that you're giving yourself and unpacking the shame, because shame is just that ever
Mm-hmm.
ending fucking cycle of like shame will just keep popping up, like shame and
And it's
loneliness, like
and
they're
it's
like
self-imposed.
buddies.
Shame is
Yeah,
self-imposed.
yeah, and
Like.
it's society imposed.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
shame is not an emotion, well
Mm-mm.
actually maybe an
I mean,
emotion
shame. I would say
technically,
it's a yeah, but
but it's like it's like a man created like hills and
mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
and lakes like
Mm-hmm.
it is made by the society around us. And I just hope that like on the journey that you're on, that like you you taking up space in any way that you can and want to,
Mm-hmm.
like it's so welcomed. And because you're fucking great, and
Thank you.
I feel so honored that you shared that, because I think that so many people might not have gone through the same
Yeah.
medical shit that you've had
Mm-hmm.
to go through, which is just absolute horseshit, like fuck that, man.
Mm-hmm.
But like people, so many people will be able to connect with this because hello, most of our country, the majority of our country are bigger people, they're fat
Yeah.
people, and it's
Yeah.
like why are we, how is it 2022 and we're still not seeing everyone as equal
I
in this,
mean,
especially
well,
in this landscape? It's just
we're
like
when we're
it's
having to
wild.
argue that health insurance is basic human rights, like
It, yes,
honestly,
absolutely.
like the fact that like I don't have health insurance right now, I'm 37 years old. It's one of those things like you shouldn't be deemed worthy of health insurance because it's tied to your job. Like
Yep. I
insurance
don't have
shouldn't
health
be
insurance either right now. I'm like walking
insurance.
on eggshells everywhere I
Well,
go.
and it's like because in Florida, we, a thing called Cobra is everywhere, but because I
Yeah.
chose to leave my job, so because I'm quitting, you no longer qualify for Cobra if you are
Hmm.
willingly leaving your job that provides health insurance. So no matter what happens, now granted, Norwegian is lovely and they cover all of our medical needs while we're here. If anything happens, they are
Yeah,
wonderful
while
for
you're on
that.
contract, yeah.
But
Is
I
that
mean,
only
because
when you're on the ship, or is that like as with the
so it's like
duration of the
when
contract?
we're like in duration of the contract, but because of that right now, like I was supposed to leave on my ship 2 weeks ago, and I'm now still in Tampa waiting to be released to work. So that is a different story. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things that like November's coming up. So the biggest thing we can all do is vote.
Fucking vote.
Because if I've learned anything from this, it's just that like give yourself give yourself the grace that you argue for other people to have for people in social media. Like
Mm.
give yourself the grace and the breadth to also just explore, to go on adventures. Like, remember, your job will replace you instantly, so take those days
Mm-hmm.
off. Don't like overspend beyond yourself, but like go on adventures. Look up those like the most Instagrammable places around you. Go get that bubble tea. Go try that thing. Like, take that picture of yourself. Take that selfie to like watch your progress. Because like even if you're not progressing, it's just like little things. Or like I tried that. I don't know if anybody's
Or
seen
like,
the
this is
strip.
my life right now.
Yeah,
Like,
this is my life right now.
look,
Like they're
look
the
where I
things I'm
am. Look what I'm
doing.
doing.
Like constantly like trying to update my pictures like once a week on social media and dating apps. One, so that like it's the most current version of yourself, but like you can remind yourself that like I could still die before I'm 40, and that I took the most advantage for myself and made the most time with the people I loved and did the things. And so I
And
was
life
like,
and life is happening now. Life is not
mhm,
happening at a
yeah,
certain weight number, or like
yeah, oh
even
yeah,
like number in terms of like levels of your body. Like, life is
hmm,
happening throughout this whole time, and
hmm,
all of that is worthy.
yeah,
And I'm fucking saying this out loud, so maybe I'll believe my fucking self, because god damn am I mean to myself.
yeah,
But like, it's so beautiful that you're like seeing that, and
mhm,
that those little moments are sinking in. And I mean, I feel like you've already answered the question, but the one
yeah,
question I always ask my guests is, um, what story is your loneliness of this time telling you? And do you feel like that's what it's telling you, or
yeah.
what is it telling you? You tell me.
Think it's having grace and sincerity for yourself, and it's teaching me to make space for myself in my own world,
Mm,
because so many of us are people pleasers. I've made space for so many other people.
yeah,
um
same.
like, but I will tell you actually what it's done more. It's taught me to listen to my body when it's telling
Mm,
me that something is wrong.
yeah.
And so I think it's teaching me to have an open dialogue with myself and have a check-in session every day at the
Mm,
end of the day of what did I not handle well? What set me off? Did I have a trigger? What happened? Did I not eat today? The world could end at any point, and you just want to be the most authentic person that you could have been to yourself. Why hide in the closet? Why not do these things? Like, I'm just authentically myself, and it's taken me so long to learn that, and I'm so not ashamed of that anymore. And I think those are the things that like this has taught me in that moment. So who knows what it'll be in 6 months when I'm actually on my like ship and traveling. But like for now, it's also taught me that it's okay to be still and alone with myself,
mm,
to
mm-hmm.
have to live in my thoughts and have to healthfully process things and emotions. So I think
Yeah.
all those things are just, I've learned that I've been able to avoid having a relationship with myself. It's like that partner that you should have broken up with years ago, but you're still in it together just for that. That's my
Yeah.
relationship with myself. And
Yeah.
so I think it's having a healthier relationship with myself. Something no one will ever let you know. And so I'm going to tell everybody this: if something bad happens or something that you're really upset about something, wallow in it for a few hours. Let yourself wallow. It is
Mm-hmm.
healthy to wallow.
Let yourself
Feel
feel
those
it.
emotions. Feel sad, cry, throw something. Like,
Say
don't
those emotions out loud. Say it out
yeah,
loud.
don't damage your relationship with someone else. Obviously, like don't take it out on somebody else, but like it's okay to cry and like lock yourself away for a few hours overnight. I always find like take your evening, do what you need to do, take your day, and then the next day, wake up, drink water, because iced coffee isn't water. Drink
Don't
water.
attack, Maddie. I would
um
like it if you'd stop attacking me. Well, Maddie, thank you so much for being here. Your story
Thanks
is
for having
beautiful.
me.
Oh my God, you're welcome at any time. And because we're always podcasting together,
We are always podcasting together, which is not
so
a bad thing ever.
it's not a bad thing. I love it.
Mhm.
Maddie, can you tell everybody where to find you,
Yeah,
where to follow you, how to support you, how to give you money,
give us money. We love that. Or just supporting us. So, yeah,
or just listening?
yeah, I try to keep my social media like personal now. So like my personal
Okay.
social media doesn't really get shared. If you know me, you're probably on there. If you're friends with me on Facebook and you want my personal Instagram, just reach out. I'll give it to you. So SMC Pod is Saturday Morning Confidentials. Feed, any extra shows that I do are going to be available in there. You and I are at Stage Death Pod
Mm-hmm.
on both Instagram and Twitter. You can find them both on Facebook. We are on Patreon. Our Patreon's only $2 a month. And I've got 2 exclusive shows that are gonna be up there now year-round.
Which are
One where
great.
one where I give you a spooky story every month called Leyline Radio, stories that are too chilling to be true, or are they? Because most of them, fun fact, are true. Um, yeah, and then I'm doing another show called Saved by the Spell, which for anybody that feels the need for a Harry Potter alternative, which I think we all need one, I'm going
Mm.
chapter by chapter through different magical training schools. The first one is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. So I go chapter by chapter through the first Magician's book. It'll take about a year to go through. And they're both available. So that's 3 shows. And because we do 2 episodes of the Saved by the Spell. There are 2 episodes every week or every other week, and then there's one Late Line Radio a month, and so that's only $2 a month for all that extra stuff. Plus, you get
Oh
stuff
yeah.
early, and yeah, and you can support us there. Em and I are also Dreamer Productions is on Ko-fi if you want to give us a couple doll hairs. All that's available on our link trees and our social media. But yeah, the best thing you can do to support us is just listen, rate, review, subscribe. Do that to this. Mash that like button, subscribe, give your
Download that
reviews.
shit.
Just everywhere, essentially. If you find Saturday Morning Confidential or Exit Stage Death on any of our social medias, our link trees are there, and it'll tell you what to do from there.
Thank you, Maddie. I love you. And
I
well,
love
I'll talk to you soon. And
Yeah,
please come back anytime.
of course.
Thank you so much for listening to this installment of Oh, I'm Lonely. I hope you feel a little bit more connected than you did before you turn on the podcast today. I know I do. Today's episode was hosted and edited by yours truly. Check me out on social media at Emily Martinez Official on Insta and Emily Martinez Entertainer on YouTube. But most importantly, please, please, please subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every platform that you listen to podcasts. It would help us out greatly if you could download, rate, and leave a gorgeous little comment on our page, because I would love to help more lovely, lonely humans like yourself, like myself, feel a little less, well, alone out there. Until next time, my friends.